The mark of any good villain is their motivation for why they do what they do. Their bad guy label rests on their actions rather than their intent for the most part. And while the actions of a character can be the result of some major miscommunication, their motivation for doing so is rarely misinterpreted. Presenting the player with a realistic villainous decline tests our own moral compass and empathy. Really, this doesn't mean what drives them to do evil is necessarily rooted in something good, so don't think I'm defending some of these pieces of work. It just means that they're fleshed out in such a way that makes them more interesting than your outright, bad to the bone, two-dimensional figure of evil who's bad just because. Providing the villain with a great motivation brings legitimacy to why the battle between good and evil exists. Not every game achieves such a feat, but these are the ones that work to make their villains more than the bare minimum, and gave them some compelling, if still inherently evil, backstories along the way. I am the just misunderstood Ash from WhatCulture Gaming, and these are 10 gaming villains with the best motivations. 10. Catherine Marlowe, Uncharted 3. Despite Uncharted perhaps being the pinnacle of linear storytelling and character development, the villains in each entry are almost always underwhelming. Roman was a generic, pompous rich guy, and Lazarevic was nothing more than a brutish, cliché Eastern European warlord. Uncharted 3's villainous duo, Catherine Marlowe and Talbot, attempted to break the mold of mediocrity, and though their presence is never the focal point of the tale, they did do a rather good job. Catherine Marlowe is the leader of a centuries-old order created by Queen Elizabeth I, a secret society dedicated to the preservation and continuation of Britain's global influence and power. Her obsession with legendary explorer Sir Francis Drake and his voyage to Arabia are fueled by her stubborn commitment to crown and country, and a young Nathan Drake was a pesky thorn in her side. Catherine Marlowe's motivations are driven by fulfilling British conquest, which the Order has fought centuries for. So few stories in the medium use British history to motivate a villain, it adds an interesting wrinkle to Marlowe's threatening presence. 9. Revolver Ocelot, Metal Gear Solid series. Revolver Ocelot's motivations were dubious throughout 1998's Metal Gear Solid. The player is unsure of what his role is in the wider story, as he's revealed to be a double agent working with the US president. But the development of his relationship with Big Boss in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater and Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain perhaps indicates that he isn't as villainous as we're led to believe. His arrogance and obvious inferiority complex in youth make Ocelot the perfect complement to Big Boss's stoic, soldier-like discipline. And when he's revealed to be a triple agent working with the KGB in the series' third installment, the dubious nature of his motivations are increased tenfold. Revolver Ocelot's vagueness is a vital component of his character, and the trust that the player places in him is always a questionable decision. Liquid Snake's hijacking of his consciousness adds another layer to his motivations, as the rationality of Revolver Ocelot is always thrown into uncertainty upon any arrival of the series' main protagonist. Ocelot is undoubtedly one of the series' most complex characters, which is perhaps why he's so beloved. 8. Magus, Chrono Trigger. 1995's Chrono Trigger is perhaps one of the most revered games in JRPG history. Full to the brim with genre-defining components, Squaresoft's break from the Final Fantasy series managed to create something fresh whilst adhering to the staples of the genre. Introducing a villain worthy of its tale was surely no simple task, and while Magus appeared to be another generic, brooding baddie, his tragic backstory makes him perhaps the most compelling character of the bunch. Chrono Trigger's tale relies heavily on time travel, and it's in a pocket of the past that Magus' true nature is revealed. Magus was once the young prince in the land of Zeal and brother to Princess Sharla. When the extraterrestrial creature known as Lavos destroys Zeal, sending Magus forward through time, he awaits his revenge. Magus summons Lavos in a bid to end the creature's reign of terror, but in doing so, Chrono and the gang believe Magus to be responsible for Lavos' destruction. Magus' goal was always to exact revenge for the death of his sister, and while his methods were questionable, just ask Glenn, his motivations were sympathetic. 7. Joker, Batman Arkham Asylum. Though his motivations are as ludicrous as he is, the Joker's plan of taking over Arkham Asylum perfectly serves his character unlike any other villain on this list. Mirroring Grant Morrison and Dave McKean's chilling graphic novel, A Serious House on Serious Earth, Arkham Asylum presents the player with one of Joker's most ambitious plans yet: to take over the institution. The characters' motivations are so often puzzling, rarely logical, and never justifiable. Yet the theatrics of taking control of Gotham Psychiatric Hospital are perhaps at the centre of his motivations all along. To him, Batman is merely a dance partner, with the two destined to continue the routine for the rest of their days. Upon Batman's arrival at the final encounter between the two, Joker cites Batman's grim facade as reason for his actions. He wanted to break down the stoic front that the Dark Knight relies on so heavily to allow him to see the world as he does. The startling lack of complexity in his motivations are the very reason why they are so fresh and exciting. The mystery of the Joker has but another layer of intrigue, and is achieved through a distinct lack of any justifiable motivation. 6. Josh, Until Dawn. Though Until Dawn's branching story choices create a butterfly effect of multiple narrative threads, the characters, setting, and villainous intent are universal amongst all playthroughs. Until Dawn pays homage to slasher movies, and its cheesy dialogue, plentiful jump scares, and questionable character decisions do well to capture the magic of films such as Halloween, Friday the 13th, and The Cabin in the Woods. A masked figure torments the cast of Until Dawn throughout the night, until players are shocked to discover that Josh, brother of Hannah and Beth, who died at the lodge the previous year, is unveiled to be the culprit. Depending on the player's choices, there can be multiple character deaths before Josh is shown to be the mastermind behind the events, so the weight of his actions varies on how the player approached the story. Josh's motivations are fueled by revenge. Hannah and Beth's lives were placed in jeopardy and ultimately ended as a result of the group's cruel prank. So Josh saw the reunion trip to the lodge as an opportunity to give the group a taste of their very bitter medicine. 5. Shepard, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. In the heat of warfare, it's often easy to be misguided by what it is that's important. In a mission to apprehend a target known as Kingfish, Shepard and his task force were attacked, and 3 years later, he is still tracking down criminal Vladimir Makarov. Shepard's obsession to bring Makarov down quickly eclipsed his duties as Lieutenant General, as the hunt and capture of the international terrorist overcame his responsibility to serve the United States military. So when the eventual betrayal of Task Force 141 began, it was clear that his actions were fueled by a selfish motivation to be hailed as a war hero. His desire to bring Makarov down himself was enough reason to embark on a path of villainy, and killing Roach at point-blank range was surely the final nail in the coffin. What would make his motivations all the more interesting would be his ultimate failure at achieving this feat. After a brutal encounter between the two, Soap McTavish puts an end to Shepard's actions by throwing a knife right into his eye. 4. Andrew Ryan, BIOSHOCK. Although his time spent on screen in 2007's BIOSHOCK is limited, Andrew Ryan's presence can be felt in all corners of Rapture, an underwater city once hailed as a libertarian wonderland that quickly fell victim to decay and madness. Rapture was to be the first great city built on the hard work of those who inhabited it, and no king nor god could assert their authority over its residents. Instead, the city quickly fell victim to the very people who would find it their home. When the largely silent protagonist, Jack, arrives following a plane crash in 1960, the city has fallen. Jack's place in the story only serves to heighten Andrew Ryan's villainy, and though Ryan's intentions were perhaps noble, the storied history of Jack and Andrew Ryan's relationship, as well as the city's clear lack of guidance at the time of the first game, etched his place amongst video game villainy royalty. Murdering Jasmine Jolene after discovering her secret, his naive, lofty expectations of Rapture, and his constant skepticism over Jack's presence in Rapture made Andrew Ryan one of the most complex, yet irredeemable characters we have seen in a game to date. 3. The Elusive Man, Mass Effect 2. Following the epic introduction of one of video games' best sequels, Commander Shepard awakens from a 2-year slumber to discover their duties as an Alliance Spectre are the least of their concerns. Resurrected and rebuilt by Cerberus, a human-centered paramilitary group focused entirely on the survival and eventual betterment of humanity, Commander Shepard spends the majority of the game at the mercy of an organization they once believed to be unjust. Cerberus work outside the parameters of Alliance jurisdiction, and strongly believe that the advancement of humanity is entirely justified no matter the cost to get there, even if that price is the downfall of other races. In truth, Cerberus constantly seem to skate a thin line between valiantly looking out for their own kind and straight-up galactic xenophobia. The Elusive Man will manipulate others, including Shepard, by luring the Collectors to Horizon to get what he wants. Yet throughout Mass Effect 2's campaign, it is hard to think his motivations aren't well-founded. That said, his questionable methods are surely a worry, and the lack of Turians on his Christmas card list is almost certainly concerning. 2. Handsome Jack, Borderlands. Handsome Jack is extremely narcissistic, irritatingly quick-witted, and undeniably amusing as his constant mocking of players can be heard throughout Borderlands 2. Perhaps the quintessential love-to-hate character, Handsome Jack is, at surface level, a typical Bond-esque villain who loves the sound of his own voice and can't resist making fun of the player at every opportunity. While his villainy is certain, he constantly insists that it is he who is the hero of the story instead of the playable Vault Hunters. Saying it so often he surely believes it, his motivations become clearer as the Borderlands series goes on. As told in 2014's Borderlands the pre-sequel, Jack wasn't always the murderous CEO we knew. His distrust of Vault Hunters becomes clear, and Lilith's betrayal forged the iconic character we immediately judged as just another bad guy. Expanding on his motivations somewhat was his inclusion in Telltale's Tales from the Borderlands. Reese's relationship with a handsome Jack, now a hologram stationed in a Hyperion ID chip, was a central theme in each of the 5 episodes, with Jack's motivation simply becoming about survival. When Reese rips out his cybernetics, Jack is once again doomed to oblivion. 1. The Fireflies, The Last of Us. In what is surely one of the most polarizing endings in video game history, the moral ramifications of Joel's final decision make us question everything we thought we knew about the Fireflies. Opposing the military sometime after the outbreak, the Fireflies were once believed by Joel, Tess and Ellie to be the best chance at curing the infection. Perhaps more respected and organised than the military, the hopes of humanity rested with the Fireflies. And when Ellie is discovered to be immune from the virus, the wheels are set in motion for the reverse engineering of a vaccine. To develop such medication would come at a price. Ellie stood no chance of surviving the operation, and the player is left pondering the immense cost of restoring the world to normality. Ultimately, Joel's selfish actions and love for Ellie clouds his sense of rationality as he proceeds to kill with little remorse when faced with Ellie's dismal survival odds. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and the Fireflies' motivations rested entirely on the revival of humanity. It's a shame then that it was Ellie who was immune, because there's no way Joel is ever going to give her up. And that's our list. What other interesting character motivations belong on this list? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. I've been Ash over on social media at Ash Millman, and this has been WhatCulture. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and come back again soon for some more gaming content. Thanks for watching.